Hello. In this video, we're going to talk about the elevator pitch, which is a very, very efficient way of condensing and encapsulating important information for busy listeners. So the elevator pitch, for me, there's two major versions, and this may be partially shaped by the work that I do and the things that I teach. But for me, there's two major versions. One is the elevator pitch where you're selling yourself. The other is the elevator pitch about a project. So essentially what you want to do for either of these is develop a roughly 30-second explanation. Now that's not a lot of time, so keep that in mind. You want to develop a roughly 30-second explanation of either your personal brand, what people should know about you as a professional, or about what this project is and why it matters. Why do you want to have an elevator pitch? Why have a 30-second condensed version of this? Well, people tend to get bored very, very quickly, particularly if they're busy people and you're talking to them when they have other things to do. So, if you want to actually impress people and you want to do it without losing their attention, having a concise version is a really good way of doing that. Again, the idea here, the reason this is called the elevator pitch, is so you could get into the elevator with a potential publisher, a potential employer, a potential client, whatever it is, and by the time the elevator doors open for one or both of you to get out, you've explained the project or you've sold yourself. So, how do you go about doing this? Well, the biggest challenge, and actually the biggest benefit of having an elevator pitch, is that you need to decide on the core things that matter about this subject. So if this is a personal brand pitch, this is what you need to know about me. This is what I want this is the impression that I want a potential employer, potential client, potential coworker, whatever it is, to have of me. People should think of these qualities when they think of me. If that's what you're doing, what you need to think about is, what are the key things? The key main things that represent you, and how do you make them memorable? Because I've seen a lot of students especially, but a lot of people in general, try and develop personal brands around broad ideas. Hard worker, dedicated, leader in the field, whatever it is. That's fine. They're not terrible, but they're not great. Like, if you're a CEO of a big company or something like this, and you've got people coming up to you all the time trying to interest you in hiring them, and they're all saying, I'm a hard worker, I'm creative, I think outside the box, whatever it is, it's fine. Yeah, but I've had 8 people today who've come up to me and described themselves in precisely that way. These are very generic terms. And so, if you can be more specific, concrete, and detailed, that's going to, I think, strengthen your elevator pitch. If you have something that can make you stand out in the listener's mind, that's going to strengthen it. So, figure out what your core identity is. What makes you worth hiring as opposed to somebody else? Try and be as unique and detailed about it as you can, and then figure out how you prove that. Because this is the other big thing, and the other big challenge of an elevator pitch, because it's such a brief thing, this is still an argument that you're making. I want you to know this about me. So you have your claim. My personal brand is... fill in the blank. Now you need evidence, right? This is the basic structure of an argument. Claim, evidence, interpretation. interpretation here is likely to be quite short because, again, it's only 30 seconds. My personal brand is X. What I have done, one experience, one thing that stands out about the work that I've done or my education or whatever it is boom. And this proves that my brand is accurate. So that's the way you want to think about it. And this is actually, I think, this is a really good exercise to go through, even if you're never in a situation where you have to give your elevator pitch, because this helps you figure out for yourself, what am I doing and how is that rooted in my experience? Because ultimately, I think this is one of the tricks with personal branding. People often think, here's what I want my brand to be, as opposed to, here's who I actually am. And that's tough. That's tricky. So I think that one of the tricks with personal branding in general, but with an elevator pitch in particular, is going to be to look at what you've actually done, your actual experiences, and say, okay, here's what I would see if I were looking at this as somebody else's experience. If I were looking at this objectively and trying to say, okay, what are this person's main strengths? Here's what I see. And then build your elevator pitch, build your personal brand around that idea. The same basic thing works if you're pitching a project. Let's say you are applying for a grant and you want to impress the funding body, whoever it is that gives that grant money, or you're looking to publish a book and you want to gauge publisher interest or something like this. You want a very, very brief explanation of that project. Essentially, here's what the project aims to do, here's why it's important. Those are your two key questions for an elevator pitch. My book is going to be about X, or my book is going to help people learn to do X. My book is going to argue X. Here's why that matters. And the question of matters is an important one in that context. If it's something like a writing project or something like this, you want not only to be, here's why this book is useful, but here's how it differs from what's currently available. So this book achieves X, it's new in this way. If you're doing something like a grant, or you want to pitch a new approach to something within the company you work for instance, the same logic applies. Here's what I'm proposing we do. Here's what the project is. Here's what the reform is, whatever it is. Here's why it matters. It will achieve X goal. That goal is important because, or it will change from what we're currently doing in this way. That change is important because. So as always, with any sort of rhetorical situation, when you're drafting your elevator pitch, and it's worth practicing it numerous times, you want to be thinking about what kinds of things is my audience likely to be concerned about. They're going to be concerned about content. They're going to be concerned about motive. They're going to be concerned about outcomes. So that's what you want to build your elevator pitch around.